Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Ape Huncho, back at you with a throwback case. So before we get into the video, I just wanted to comment on when I run polls on my community tab. Of course, I appreciate everyone coming to check my channel out, and if you decided to subscribe, then honestly you don't understand how grateful I am. Now in the future I'll be doing giveaways and other things like that, but of course, as you guys know, I run community tab posts pretty much on a daily basis, and I want to get the community involved with the channel as much as I can. That's why I post polls and other things like that. Now I see some people getting a bit confused about me posting polls. For example, if I post a poll about which video people want to see next, some people will say do both, and both videos will be getting made, but it's nice to try and get the community involved. And of course, depending on who wins the poll, I'll obviously do that video, but sometimes I won't always do that one. And the reasoning for that is because sometimes when I read the comment section on the poll, everyone tells me to do the opposite one, and today's throwback case is an example of that. So if you guys have never seen a throwback case before, it's a series I created where we take an in-depth look at some trials that have taken place in the past, normally surrounding UK drill rappers or UK rappers in general. And if there's anyone who you guys want to see in a future episode, let me know down in the comment section below. And with that being said, let's jump into the case. So unlike the cases we've looked at before, Samurai was born in the Newton Heath area in Manchester. Since around the age of 10, he had a passion for music, but it wasn't rap music to start with, it was classical. I can't find specifically what he was doing classical music wise, but if I was to take a wild guess, I would say it was probably something to do with playing an instrument. But if anybody knows any different, I would appreciate it if you can let me know down in the comment section below. But as he started to get older, he gave up classical music and went into the rap genre. He was then given the opportunity to follow a music career with the Manchester Camerata Youth Forum, where he went on to perform at the Royal Northern College of Music. Now I'm unsure at this current time whether he attended the college via the Youth Forum or the Youth Forum gave him opportunities to perform there to build a portfolio, but it should be noted that Samurai had shortly studied music in Leeds before dropping out. So explaining this Youth Forum though, it says Manchester Camerata is marking its 40th anniversary by looking to the future with the launch of a new youth program. Its aim will be to offer young people the opportunity to develop skills and participate in new music projects across Greater Manchester, fusing classical and non-classical styles to create innovative events and new pieces of art. A key part of the program is Manchester Camerata Youth Forum, a collective of young people from Greater Manchester with a passion for music, made possible with the funding from the Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation, Curious Minds and Ernest Cook Trust. Recruitment for the forum is currently taking place. The orchestra is looking for young people aged 14 to 19 who are enterprising, passionate and committed to their own original music, interested in shaping the development of the Camerata youth program activities, and who have a desire to make a difference within their community. Whether their expertise lies in singing, rapping, DJing, songwriting or instrumental playing, both classical and non-classical, Camerata would love them to be a part of the new youth forum. Although Samurai would go on to say he was releasing grime music by the age of 14, the earliest music video of his I can find on YouTube is when he would have been at this point around 15 or 16, and he would go on to release a freestyle on the channel Kez the Guru, and rather than grime, this would be an uplifting and reminiscent road rap freestyle. Shortly after this, he would go on to release another road rap song called Catch Up, which would be a more gritty sound while rapping over Terror Squad's Lean Back instrumental. It wouldn't be until 2015 though where he would really start turning things up, and he would go on to drop a Street Heat freestyle on Link Up TV on the 14th of July 2015. This time it had a more grime feel to it. Throughout 2015 he would go on to release various songs, and by the end of the year he would drop a P1101 take where in my opinion this time it had more of a drill vibe, and this is where to my best knowledge he would start to shout 40, which for you guys who didn't know is Newton Heath's postcode. At the start of 2016 we would really start to see Samurai delve into the drill sound, and of course because he's from Manchester he instantly stuck out from everyone else in the scene because, as you know, the majority of drill rappers are from the capital. In Samurai's own words, 2016 would be a massive year for him, and it definitely would be because in June of 2016 he would drop his Black Box, which currently sits on 1.1 million views, and on that freestyle he would show the nation and the world his versatility as an artist. Now at this time, another rapper from the Newton Heath area, the majority of you will know him as H, but of course at this time he was going as 40H, had been slowly working his way up as an artist, releasing various songs which gained decent views just like Samurai was doing. Of course, like I said a minute ago, his name was 40H at that time because he was a part of 40, and the pair more than likely briefly release music together, but it wouldn't be until 1 month after Samurai's Black Box that the two would come together on One Way TV to drop a freestyle that currently sits on 550k views. After this, Samurai would go on to release more music, but in October of 2016, he would go on to release the song 1K with various artists, including H, which currently sits on 253k views. At the end of October, H and Samurai would link up with Robert Hollow and release Wavy With It, which sits on 45k views, and looking at 2020, you would never really think an H song would be sitting on 45k views. Again, having a successful 2016 so far, Samurai would even go on to link up with Zone 2's OS in December of 2016, and they would drop the song Ops, which has been taken down off YouTube. But it would be his song 4, which again has been taken down off YouTube, which in his own words would put him on the nationwide platform after the song had gained decent traction. After having a massive 2016, he would go on to have a bigger 2017, and after linking up with Kenny Allstar, he would drop his Man About Bars, which currently sits on 467k views. Again, in his own words, Samurai would go on to say that Kenny Allstar, along with linking up with Morgan Keys later on in the year, are the reason his name was solidifying in the UK rap and drill scene at that point. Then in August of 2017, Samurai and H, along with other local artists from 40, would be invited to do a Tim Westwood crib session. Of course, throughout of all of 2017, he would go on to drop music including songs such as 40 Bop, Nights in the Tea, and Ain't Trying to Get Nabbed, and to end the year off in December of 2017, he would go on to drop his mixtape For Real, hosted by Kenny Allstar, and after once again having a massive year in 2017, this is what Samurai would go on to say about the next year coming up.
So what, 2018, you're looking to like turn it into a living now, yeah?
2018 is gonna be a madness, just know that. That's all I'm gonna say about 2018.
2018,
yeah man.
So to start his biggest year to date, he would drop the visuals for Mission Mash and would go on to drop the visuals for 3.5, and on top of this, in July of 2018, he would also go on to release a song called Pressure with RV from OFB. But this would all come to a halt 3 months prior to the release of the song with RV, and Samurai's career in music was now potentially over, because he got caught up in a situation in which he'd be looking at life in prison, and it all happened on none other than Friday the 13th of April 2018. It was reported that at 5 PM, a man, who we now know as Samurai, had shot a man at that time police believed to be 3 or 4 times on Scotland Hall Road in Newton Heath. Neighbours spoke of their terror to reporters after witnessing the shooting, which happened in front of children who were playing in the residential street. One of them would go on to say that his grandchildren were out playing when they heard a commotion in a nearby house. He said, "You could hear screaming and shouting. One of the lads come out and the other lad had came out shooting at him. There was a bang. It was a low caliber gun. It wasn't dead loud. It was like the sound of a starting pistol." They added, "He took 3 or 4 shots. The lad was ducking about and then he looked to the side of his hip like he'd been shot. Everything happened so quickly. I was worried about my grandkids. My grandson was out there playing. He came flying into the house. He was terrified. He couldn't stop shaking. He came in shouting, 'It's all gone off, Grandad.'" Another neighbour said she was walking back from the shops with her children when she heard the pop 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 of a gun going off. The mum went on to say, "I ran inside with the kids. It was scary. It's awful that it happened during daylight. There were kids running about." After the incident, a part of the road was sealed off by police and a cordon had remained in place until the following evening. Initially after the shooting, 2 teenagers aged 14 and 16 were arrested in connection with the incident, with Detective Inspector Claire Maguire saying, "A young man has been left with serious injuries as a result of this incident, and that's why it's vital that we find the people responsible. While we've made 2 arrests, we are in the early stages of the investigation, and our inquiries into the full circumstances around how this man came to be shot continues. It's important that members of the public who can help us to identify those who were at the scene at the time of the shooting contact police. People in the area will see increased patrols, and I urge anyone with detail that could help our investigation or with any concerns to speak to these officers directly." But 3 days after the incident, on the 16th of April 2018, police would go on to arrest none other than, at the time, 19-year-old Samuel Aguda, aka Samurai. Samurai, who in fact lived on the road of the shooting, would then go on to be charged with attempted murder and possession of a firearm. He would also go on to be charged with other offences in relation to separate incidents, but we'll get into that when the trial date comes around. He was then remanded into custody and was due to appear at Manchester Magistrates Court at a later date. At this point, police would release the 14 and 16-year-old boys, but I'm unsure if they were let out on bail or was released with no further action, but eventually the charges would be dropped against them. And then the police would go on to arrest 2 men aged 19 and 20, but they were bailed pending further inquiries, and of course the charges would have also been dropped against them. Now, there are very few details about Samurai's trial, but I've tried to dig up as much as I can. So the trial would start on the 25th of September 2018, and it was heard that Samurai denied the charges of attempted murder brought against him and denied the other charge of possessing a prohibited firearm. In court, the jury were told that Samuel Oguda was a professional rap artist who went by the alias Samurai, and they heard that he wore body armor because Samurai had claimed he'd been attacked and shot at on previous occasions. Opening the case, prosecutor barrister Mark Rind said that Samurai had bumped into the victim by chance outside Samurai's home in Scotland Hall Road in Newton Heath. He went on to say that Samurai fired the gun up to 10 times at the victim, who was 10 feet away from him, and during the hail of bullets, the victim was hit twice, adding his intention clearly can only have been to kill. In reference to the altercation, the prosecution went on to say that in April, the victim arrived in Newton Heath at around 5 PM in a grey Mercedes, and Samurai was there with 2 friends. The victim said he recognised Samurai as someone he had an issue with, which was over a girl, and he also accused Samurai of, in his own words, going around and talking shit about him. A short while later, the victim said he got out of the car armed with a baseball bat. At this point, Samurai then produced a handgun, and the victim said he thought it was fake, so he started to laugh in Samurai's face. It was then heard that the victim was then shot in the groin after laughing at him, and after getting shot, the victim got in his car and drove off. The prosecution said the victim then returned, and Samurai was said to have shot him again, this time hitting him in his shoulder. By 5:17 PM, members of the public began calling 999 to reports of shots fired. It was said that the victim was taken to hospital and later underwent surgery, which he since recovered from. In police interviews, Samurai said that he'd been involved in an incident, but said that he was the victim of an attack and went on to deny shooting at the victim. Samurai claimed that the victim must have been shot by one of his own associates rather than by Samurai or any of Samurai's associates. The court heard that the victim was interviewed by police in hospital, and he made a quote-unquote frank admission, but he didn't realise he was being recorded by the officer's body cam. When this evidence was produced in court, the victim was said to have been backpedaling from his statement, but the judge said that the body cam footage was allowed to be used by the prosecution as evidence. At a later court date, it was heard that Samurai had been charged for a separate incident where he robbed a taxi driver at knife point and was charged with drug offences, but he had already pleaded guilty to the catalogue of charges, which included robbery, aggravated vehicle taking, possession with intent to supply cocaine and heroin, and possession of cannabis. Going into more depth about the taxi robbery, it was heard that in April of 2018, 2 months before the shooting, Samurai and 3 other men got into a taxi. At some point in the journey, the driver had a knife put to his throat and another to his face. One man told the driver, "Give me what you have or I'll stab you." The driver handed over cash and personal items. He was told to lie down as they drove off in his Skoda taxi, and they also took keys for his personal car, an Audi, which was later stolen from his home. In relation to the drug offences, it was heard that Samurai was also previously caught by police with 34 wraps of heroin and 2 wraps of crack cocaine, worth a total of £340, as well as 2 snap bags of cannabis. The court also heard that the gun Samurai used in the shooting had previously been used during incidents in Stretford, Huddersfield and Atherton, but the gun was never recovered. In defence, Ian Metcalf said testimonials submitted on Samurai's behalf told of a bright, well-behaved, well-motivated young man who had a real talent for music, adding, "It's pure speculation whether the brand of music he adopted in some way led him to dark corners in terms of its associated culture and lifestyle." So after the trial, a jury found him guilty of attempted murder and possession of a prohibited firearm. So as you guys know, Samurai was said to have shot the victim in 2 separate incidents, which time-wise they were very close to each other. A specific time isn't given, but I think it's safe to say it would have been roughly 10 minutes between both shootings. In relation to the first shooting, the jury found Samurai not guilty of attempted murder because they didn't conclude the offence had been proven. But in relation to the second shooting, they found him guilty of attempted murder. And with all the charges brought against him, he was then sentenced to 24 years in prison. Passing sentencing, Judge Mark Rudland said, "It's a tragedy to see a talented young man like you sitting in the dock of a Crown Court having been convicted of attempted murder." The judge said it's still unclear why the confrontation in Newton Heath happened, and he went on to say he, the victim, armed himself with at least a baseball bat. He was looking for trouble. Whatever he did to you didn't justify for one moment what you did to him. You set out to execute him, an execution that failed. And in reference to the gun, he went on to say, "It's a sad fact that however it came into your hands, it's still out in the community community somewhere ready to be used again by someone like you. And that is the throwback case of Samurai. Now Samurai's case, just like a lot of the other cases we've looked at, points to wasted talent in music, but Samurai's one sticks out to me the most, and that's just simply because of how big H is. And what I mean by that is if we take a look at Samurai in 40, he was easily the biggest artist at that time of the group, and he had multiple link-ups with H at that time, and moving forward on a mainstream platform, I genuinely think that Samurai and H would have been a somewhat unofficial duo, and honestly, Samurai could have been the next biggest thing out of Manchester alongside H. Now for anyone that's wondering, Samurai is eligible for parole in 2030 because he's only got to do half of his sentence, so he's got about 10 years left, and honestly, I think there's going to be some kind of buzz surrounding his name by the time he gets out of jail, but of course, only time will tell. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below, give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.